So welcome, 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 and happy Easter. If you could go to the next slide, please. My wonderful, beautiful assistant back there that I love dearly. That would be my husband, totally. Happy Easter. Happy Easter. So next slide, please. Just a quick FYI, in case you didn't know it. Did you know that the religious tradition of spring flowers, bunnies, and Easter eggs, even the name Easter, came from celebrating the Norse goddess Eostre, or also known as Ostara, the goddess of new beginnings. The word East has the same origin. At that time, baby rabbits were born, flowers bloomed, like the world was waking up. Did you all notice that coming in here this morning? Oh, so many awe moments coming in here this morning. I don't think I've seen the mountains this clear, this beautiful. The Norse people boiled the flowers with eggs, also a symbol, turning the eggs the colors of the blooms to celebrate the goddess of new beginnings. So did you all know that that's where that tradition started from? Some of you did, some of you didn't. So you know I like to always start out with something a little funny. So let's go to the next slide. I love this. So close your eyes and I'll hide the kids again. So little did you know that chickens always also celebrate Easter, and they hide their children so that the other people can find, so the other chickens can find them. And then and to go on, this one was an Easter egg, and explains it. It's an Easter egg. And then we'll culminate with the last funny slide, which is kind of goes right into my talk today. He's not there. Oh wait. He's changed his status to risen. So that is what we're doing today. We are changing our status to risen. You can go on to the next slide. So last week, on Palm Sunday, we began our journey of the sacred descent and profound return into Jerusalem and our own lives. And as we moved through Holy Week, we realized that it is through the descent that we gain awareness that leads us to the awakening of our own divinity. You all remember that from last Sunday? Let's everybody take a nice long deep breath. It's been a journey, hasn't it? The journey of this Holy Week. Whew. Reverend Ellen Davenport states, the long-told story of Jesus' crucifixion, entombment, and resurrection is the story of our lives. We resonate with its loss, its darkness, its new life, and we cycle through the same process time and time again in our human lifetime. Reverend Kurt Condra stated, when things don't go our way, it's part of the faith journey. Sometimes we pray, affirm and trust, and do everything right. Everything right. And life still doesn't unfold the way we had hoped. Those moments can shake us, not only because the outcome didn't happen, but because they challenge our sense of how spiritual principles are supposed to work. I had a moment similar to this a couple of weeks ago that temporarily shook my faith and experiencing a deep, deep disappointment. And sharing it with my mastermind prayer group, they reminded me, this is why prayer groups are so important, y'all. They reminded me that God is bigger than this, whatever this is. I was immediately reminded of Mary Morrissey's saying, don't tell God how big your problems are. You tell your problems how big your God is. So I got real busy telling my problems how big my God is. As today's daily word stated, I, too, have the power to rise above any challenge. While when I feel defeated, I rise. When I stumble, I rise. And when sorrow weighs heavily, I rise. Each rising is a proof that resurrection is a divine energy pulsing through every heartbeat and breath. There is always a resurrection, not just one Sunday a month or a year. There is always a resurrection. That's the message of Easter for us. Reverend Ellen goes on to say, nothing stays dark forever. A new day always dawns. We are given new beginnings and fresh starts. The sun comes up again. There is nothing so painful in our lives that it can't be redeemed for good somehow. And that is our prayer from the tomb. Show me the good. Then we can start to create a new day. So life is eternal, far beyond this physical existence. In the unity tradition, the risen Jesus tells us there is so much more to life than you have realized. In giving an Easter talk at Unity of New York, Eric Butterworth said this: I have a feeling that there is something in the Easter story that says this to each of us. I want to live in you. I don't want you to just talk about it. I don't want you to sit back and sing songs about it and listen to the story and go on your way and say, ho hum, another Easter. Let's go out and see the people on Fifth Avenue. I want to live in you. I want to raise you from death to life. I want to help you find the way from defeat to victory. I want to be a process in you from sickness to health, from failure to victory, to success. I want to live in you. So in honor of April being National Poetry Month, I will be sharing several throughout the month of April. Just giving you fair warning here. I'm going to start out with Walt Whitman. Walt Whitman wrote, "The moment you stand up and claim your divinity, Christ is reborn within your heart. Buddha rejoices. Muhammad dances upon the mountaintop. Lao Tzu winks approvingly. And the promise of the tree of life is fulfilled. And I know that the hand of God is the promise of my own. And I know that the Spirit of God is the brother of my own. And that all the men ever born are also my brothers, and the women my sisters." Absolutely everything is holy now. That song by Peter Mayer, it's been in my soul for many, many years. I tend to offer it every Easter during service. I tend to share it. And it's a journey. It's a journey of spiritual awakening and transformation. The song reflects on the evolution from a child's awe of biblical miracles to an adult's recognition of the divine in every aspect of life. It emphasizes that the world is full of miracles, and we are invited to acknowledge their existence. The song lyrics and meaning lead us to a greater understanding of the interconnectedness of life and the beauty of the universe. Peter Meyer sang, "Wine from the water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all." So, the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. Now that's a radical shift in perspective, isn't it? What does that look like? Just ponder that for a minute. And if you're like, oh, I wasn't paying attention, what are we supposed to be pondering? I'll go back and share that with you. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. So that radical change in perspective, what if we lived like this is the truth? What does that look like? Now, some of you might be thinking, well, I do, and I believe you. And the invitation is 24/7. Maybe you do, and it's 5 hours out of the day. What if it was all the time? What would that look like? How does that feel? So for those of you that thought to yourself, well, I do, how does that feel? When you find yourself living as if absolutely everything is holy, absolutely everything is a miracle in your life, what does that feel like? Anybody?
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle. It feels like a miracle. What else does it feel like?
Promising.
Promising.
Living the presence.
Living the presence. Feels like joyful glee for me.
Just feels so connection. True.
So true. Connection. Anything else? What is
I woke up this morning.
You woke up this morning. It's a miracle.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Yeah. So miracle, the definition of a miracle, according to Webster, and is an extraordinary and astonishing event that is not explicable by natural or scientific laws and is therefore attributed to a divine agency. And it gives the example, the miracle of rising from the grave. So it's attributed to a divine agency. And if our task is to go about living as if everything is holy now, as if everything's a miracle, that kind of makes sense that it's attributed to divine agency, right? Because divinity is omnipresent. It is always present. It is omniscient. It's all-knowing. And it's all-powerful. And it's always within us. So I kind of just, did you see what I did there? Through the definition of miracle, I kind of pointed out how it's always happening within us. So it's not a challenge unless we make it a challenge. To live life as if everything is holy now. To live life as if everything is a miracle. Let's continue. If everything's a miracle, then nothing is disposable. Not earth, not friends, not neighbors. It requires reverence, and it leads to a responsibility to nurture, to protect, and to steward what is precious. And friends, isn't everything precious when everything is holy now? Yeah. Yet, when our hearts are battered by maybe devastating news, cruelty, abuses of power, we are called not to turn away, yet to turn toward places where beauty still breaks through, and to find the miracle in the dust. A colleague in her first year of seminary was given an assignment called a beauty walk. They were to go out to their neighborhoods and find beauty wherever they were. That week, she just happened to be in Romania, in a city deeply scarred by decades of communist rule. And her walk took her over broken sidewalks and around open construction pits, under tangles of wires and past heaps of plaster and brick. At first glance, it felt bleak. Yet, she had an assignment to do. So she looked, and she looked, and she looked, and guess what she found? Can y'all guess what she found?
Beauty.
Easter egg.
Beauty. That was a good one. She was looking for beauty. She found beauty. She saw carefully planted begonias that someone had dug up from the weeds and planted. There was a toddler in the park throwing seeds and chasing pigeons and laughing joyously as his grandmother was grinning at him. And there was a Romanian woman selling roasted nuts that were wrapped in sheets of newspaper, and she was radiant in her layers of colored skirts and beads. There was fresh blue paint around the frame of windows, creating a welcoming presence from the contrast of the flat, gray, plain concrete wall. She began to notice the interconnections between the old and the new, the struggle and the grace, and the hardship and the resilience. There was pride in the rebuilding, in the lifting up of life, and there was joy in these small moments. One of my favorite authors is Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen. Had the wonderful pleasure of getting to meet her in person for the first time in 1995, when my mother and I went to an alternative health symposium conference. It was the first time I got to hear her speak live, and she's just a phenomenal storyteller. And in the meeting place, in Stories That Heal, she writes this: "The places in which we are seen and heard are holy places. They remind us of our value as human beings. They give us the strength to go on." So Rachel tells of a story of an encounter that she had on an airplane that ended up kind of like a foot washing experience. If you all are familiar with Maundy, Thursday, and Jesus' washing of the feet, she kind of had a similar experience. And she writes about it. As she boarded the plane, she found herself sitting next to a distinguished-looking older man who sat quietly in the window seat without speaking. She was deeply involved in her book when she heard her seatmate gasp in dismay. He had spilled a container of yogurt all over his shoes and on his carry-on bag. Surprisingly, he took no action. He just kept looking out the window in stony silence. Then she noticed the metal brace on his left leg. His leg was paralyzed. Rachel asked the overworked flight attendant for a wet towel, but she just snapped back. "There are 452 people on this plane. I'm doing the best I can. You'll just have to wait." It dawned on Rachel that she had to look on the situation in a new way. She wrote, "Then I realized that it had simply not occurred to her that I was a participant. She was wanting to help. So then she said to her, 'If you bring me a wet towel, I will be able to get that up,' I said quietly." She hesitated, and Rachel wondered if she had heard. Then she raised her eyebrows, turned on her heel, and brought a towel. After the cart had passed us, I'm doing this in first person to third person, I'm kind of going back more, so go with me here. After the cart had passed us, I looked again at my seatmate. He continued to look fixedly out the window, his left foot motionless and his right hidden under the seat. Rachel leans in and says to him, "I used to love to fly, but I find it difficult now." I told him that in the past few years, I have had trouble seeing. Still looking out the window, he told me that 8 months ago he had suffered a stroke and now had no feeling in either of his arms from his fingertips to his elbows. Yet, he had flown halfway across the country to spend some time in the home of his son. He was speaking almost in a whisper, and I leaned closer to him to be able to hear him. "Since my stroke, I'm incontinent," he said. "I have to wear a diaper." I nodded. marveling at the choreography of this chance seating assignment. "I have an ileostomy," she said. He turned and looked at her and asked, "What is that?" And so she explained that her large intestine had been surgically removed and that she wears a plastic appliance attached to the side of her abdomen to collect partially digested food. She added, "Even after 30 years, she's still concerned that it may leak, especially on a plane." After a moment, we smiled at each other. And then he looked at the towel that she was holding, and she looked down at his feet. And as they talked, he had brought his right foot out from under the seat. "May I?" she asked, motioning with the towel. Kneeling, she began to wipe his shoes. And as she was doing this, he leaned forward and told her, "I used to play the violin." And he went on to share his remembered joy of that experience. Today's daily word continues. With each rising is proof that resurrection is a divine energy pulsing through every heartbeat and breath. This Easter, I behold with awe every sign of life's renewing presence. A kind word, a morning breeze, a generous impulse, a wave of gratitude. All are glimpses of Easter's restoring power, lifting me higher. Mary Oliver wrote a poem titled "Mysteries, Yes." Truly, we live with mysteries too marvelous to be understood. How grass can be nourishing in the mouths of lambs, how rivers and stones are forever in allegiance with gravity, while we ourselves dream of rising. How two hands touch and bonds will never be broken. How people come from delight or the scars of damage to the comfort of a poem. Let me keep my distance always from those who think they have all the answers. Let me keep company always with those who say, "Look," and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads. What has moved you recently to stop? To stop in awe and say, "Wow," or "Look"? What has moved you to stop and have that feeling recently? Now, I did on the way in here today. If you're blessed enough to be able to drive here from Squim, you got to see the gorgeous mountains this morning. I can't tell you how many times Tony and I gasped in awe just on the drive here. How about the rest of you? Yes.
A beautiful flowering bush right by the door of my car.
Yes, beautiful flowering bush. They're spectacular right now, aren't they?
Yes.
What else? Anything else? Yes.
A big bumblebee on a blossom yesterday.
Yes, a big bumblebee. They're just spectacular, aren't they? Science and physics says they shouldn't be able to fly, yet they show us every day. Miracles are totally common. Great example. Richard Wagamis, in his book Embers, help me say this word, Ojibwe's Meditations. I'm so sorry to tangle that up. Anyway, Richard Wagamis, in his book Embers, wrote this: "I've been referred to as odd, ODD, before. Nowadays, I prefer to refer to myself as odd, AWED. I want awe to be the greatest ongoing relationship in my life. I want to move through my days floored by the magnificence and generosity of my Creator. The breaking of the day, the silence between words, the light emanating from a real conversation, and kindness, truth, love, and the apparently random hand of grace. I want to remain God-smacked by it all, rendered speechless by wonder. I await the next unfolding. Peace, friends. Be odd today. Today, we are kicking off a month of miracles. You heard it here first, folks. Today, we are kicking off a whole month of miracles. We live in a connected universe. Physicists have shown that the observer and the observed interact, and that energy and matter exchange. Albert Einstein believed that we live in a friendly, supportive, interacting universe. Jesus presented a very clear image of this loving and responsive universe for us to consider. So this month, we are making a conscious decision and taking action to place our awareness on the holy, to look for the miracles, and to be in awe. So what do you think will happen if we invest an effort to pay attention to the holy? What do you think will happen?
More holy.
More holy. Ooh, I could do with some more holy. How about you? What else would happen?
More joy.
More joy. More joy.
When we're joyful, it goes out.
It absolutely does, Clancy. Thank you. Yes, we not only impact our lives, we impact the lives of others. Maybe even the world. Oh, wouldn't that be lovely? So, oh, I'm losing my scarf. Not that kind of service here, folks. Okay. Having some joy here. A very special guest and beloved of mine, you all didn't know I was married to Peter Cottontail, did you? Is going to help me pass out some gift bags for each of you. And then I will tell you what's going to happen with those gift bags. I'll grab some and you can hand some out. If you can see Peter Cottontail. Here you are, you see. Here you are. Thank you. Oh, here you are. Here you are. Thank you. You're welcome. Need some more, Peter Cottontail? All right. There we go. Now don't, see, some of you are open them all, that's okay. I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it. Oh. There you go. Did you handle it, Nathan? Thank
Yay,
you.
Peter, thank you.
All right, so now I am going to fill you in on your assignment. Usually I say you have an assignment if you so choose, but today's assignment, it's a given, meaning we're all doing it. See what I did there? Now, inside you will find your own special journal with a positive affirmation along with a special pen. Now, I know everybody's looking in their bag. If I could get all eyes up here for a second, because I'm going to tell you what the assignment is, and I don't want you to miss out on that. The assignment is to keep this journal with you as much as possible as you're going through the month, especially this week, because we're going to be checking in next week. As you experience awe, as you feel the holy, as you experience or witness miracles, this is your little booklet to jot them down. You're going to start making a note of your awe as you're being awed. So can somebody tell me what the assignment is this week? Got going to the dentist? No. Being awed. Who wants to tell me the assignment this week?
Notice all the awful moments.
Yes, yes, because those are holy too. We're going to be talking about that next week. The awe, yes. And so you're going to be present, you're going to notice all of those moments, and then you're going to write them down, list them in your book, right? You're going to keep your book with you as often as possible. I know sometimes that's not possible always, but I selected a size that hopefully you can stick in your pocket. So when we begin to place our mind on the higher things, qualities of the divine that we wish to experience, they begin to show up in greater ways in our life. Like attracts like. What we focus on grows. What we put our attention on comes about. The higher we raise our consciousness, better things come. And so as the daily word concludes, Easter is not just Jesus' story. It is mine too, and it is yours. His resurrection is a reminder that the power to rise above struggle and limitation is alive in me. I am a new creation. I rise. So let's everybody say that together. I am a new creation. I rise. One more time. I am a new creation. I rise. Hallelujah. And so it is.